Our next storyteller is Paul Jackson. Dr. Paul Jackson, or I brother. Okay, Paul Jackson is a retired mixed reality research engineer that considers himself tri-coastal. Born and raised in the Mid-Atlantic, East Coast, he went to college in the Gulf Coast and now resides in the Pacific Northwest, the West Coast. His favorite activities now are watching in class with Carr, enjoying virtual worlds, being a virtual mentor, and observing digital content with thanks to broadband. Paul's handle is iBrother on the older various social media sites like Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Paul, please share with us.
So, well, thank you, Noni. And before I start, I want to ask if anybody has anybody heard of the chronic disease self-management program that the African American Reach and Teach Ministries has? I don't see any hands. And so I just finished a 6-week class on becoming a lay leader. And so I'll be teaching with my co-leader this class of chronic disease self-management. And so, and again, if you go to aarth.org, is a website that has that information. They're doing classes on blood pressure and diabetes and just how to live. There's another one that has with music and African history and dance. And so it's definitely something I would recommend investigating. So anyway, this is kind of strange because I'm not really a writer. I joke about this all the time with Noni. I don't write. I'd like to be behind the camera, not in front of the camera. And so one of the other things I was going to say is because I've lived in Seattle for like over 20 years. And with all the interviews I've done, I've realized that every aspect of American culture has been affected by somebody who had either born, lived, or died in Seattle. And the people here in AWA are part of the group because you guys, Dr. McDade, Dr. Hardiman, Noni, you guys are doing it. You guys are shaping not only Seattle, but you're reaching out to the Pacific Northwest and other states, the West Coast, and the whole country to motivate us African Americans to tell our stories and to write. And so one last person I want to mention is I'm pulling a blank. Oh, she lived up in Mount Lake Terrace. She's a female African American science fiction writer. Can I help you out? You guys are writers. You're science fiction writers. What's her name?
Octavia Butler.
Thank you, Octavia Butler. And so, yeah, I mean, people like that, you know, we don't think of Seattle and Octavia Butler, but yeah, you know, we don't think like even the brother who wrote Roots, Alex Haley, he had a heart attack in Seattle. I mean, it's sad to say, but yeah, people who really shaped the country, a lot of them graduated from Garfield High School. And so, but anyway, I'm rocking my, you know, Black Panther t-shirt, but I'll stop rambling and read what I wrote. So, so I'm currently a retired 52-year-old mixed reality research engineer that attained my Ph.D. in computer engineering in 1988 from Texas A&M. I did this after completing my BS in electrical engineering and master's in engineering from Prairie View A&M, a historically Black college and university, HBCU. Born in Philly, I describe myself as a military brat light. My parents got divorced while I was in diapers, a byproduct of the Vietnam War. My father didn't physically die there, but something inside him must have. My mother, born in the same county as First Lady Obama's grandparents, was the oldest twin of 10 and the first to graduate from South Carolina State. She also spent 35 years as a civilian in the Army, working with countries that wanted to buy goods from the US. With her being from South Carolina, she is what we consider Gula Geechee, which is where I get the green eyes from and the light skin. My parents bought a home in South Jersey version of Levittown, Williamsboro, New Jersey, about 25 miles northeast of Philadelphia. And she was able to always keep a house there. We moved almost every 3 years, from the time I was born until I graduated high school. Hence the military brat light. Even though I went to public school the whole entire time, we even moved once when I was in high school. Mom got me married to a guy that turned out to be a real jerk. She had twins when I was a junior in high school. That's a 17-year-old difference. And as a matter of fact, my younger brother is getting married in September. And so my wife and I are flying to New Jersey, and I got my booster shot, so I got masked up and ready to go. But yeah, we moved almost like to every 3 years. My mom had me in preschool at St. Luke Lutheran Church in Willingboro, although we were Southern Baptist. They taught me to start reading at age 4 or 5, and I wound up skipping kindergarten. Went to first and second grade in Fairfax, Virginia, third and fourth in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, fifth and sixth back in Jersey, seventh in Cambridge, Massachusetts, when she was attending MIT, we'll go back to in a second, and the rest back in Willingboro. So even though I had to move, even in high school, I was mentioning, I was an only child, and looking back, never really got into too much trouble. There was a time when a classmate sat down on a sharpened pencil I'd set up, and other time I tried to dry some wet jeans in the oven that caused the smoke alarm to go off. But I was a fairly good kid, fairly good student. I played classical violin for the 4th grade through high school, taught myself how to play guitar about the 6th grade, and I was generally a good kid. Didn't get into fights, never got suspended, detentions, nah. That's a good kid. I think it was the year that I spent with my mom, and she attended MIT, which got me bit by the computer bug. That was 1980, and the HP Model 85 computer was in the bookstore. The original price was $2,750, and it had a built-in printer with it. I would spend hours at the store playing with it, looking at movies that they showed. It was also the year that I started playing arcade games, and the quarters I got from my paper route was a perfect source of that addiction. I also vaguely remember a story of a race killing in Boston, which might explain why my mom was in tears after reuniting with her hours after playing video games at the arcade. So moving back to New Jersey to attend junior high in high school was nice, except that my stepdad would get into fights with my mom. He was previously married and had 3 daughters from that first marriage. But one day I tried to intervene in an argument, which led us to have to move. Nobody went to jail, and all I got was a rather sorry apology and examples of what not to be as a husband nor father. I remember playing guitar in junior high so well, I played Stairway to Heaven in this talent show and was asked to perform at a spot in the neighboring town of Burlington. Willingboro had a population of about 30,000. It was an integrated community. This is back in the 70s, late 60s. It had a number of parks that had street names with the first letter of the part of the name. So the first house we had was in Pennypacker Park. So street names would be like Poplar Lane, Pickwick, Pastoral, etc. The second was in Garfield. The third was in Hawthorne. And the final was in Twin Hills, which is really close to the high school that I graduated from. Although at the time, we were living in Garfield, which meant I had to walk a mile past the other high school to get to the one I attended. This was because at the time, the high school had a different college prep path, and Willingboro, the high school, had the computer path, where JFK, the other high school, had an alternative, didn't have the class. We didn't make enough money for me to go to the college I want, but an SAT score got me a scholarship to the Benjamin Banneker Honors Program at Prairie View. It was its second year and had already determined the classes one would take based on what you wanted to major in. My high school advisor, an African-American female, recommended I shouldn't go based on feedback from another high school student who went the year prior. But in the end, I went, and I'm forever grateful that I did. The brother who wound up being my freshman roommate, Marcus Moses, and my bandmate, because I played in a band when I was an undergrad, and my best man for my first marriage are the 2 reasons why I think going to Prairie View was the best thing that could have happened to me. Of course, there's some others, like my high school sweetheart that transferred when I was a sophomore, and we decided to get a room off campus, but that's another story. In 2021, I'm remarried and now living in Tacoma after spending 20 years in Seattle. I produced over 500 videos of various lengths And in February, I gave a presentation to the Bellevue College XR Lab about virtual reality content for African Americans, which included a conversation with the creator of the Portland, Oregon George Floyd Memorial Wall at the Apple Store. Over 300 photos were taken, and through the use of photogrammetry, a 3D model was created in AltSpace VR. So AltSpace is a place you can go on your computer and experience virtual worlds. And if you have a headset, like I have, this Oculus Go, you can actually experience virtual reality. And models that are created are in AltSpace. And it's an amazing, amazing thing. I have recorded conversations with people like Tammy Gibson, aka Sankofa Travel Her, who's an author who wrote this book about African American monuments around the country. And she, in Washington State, she only has like 4 listed. Of course, it's got the Jimi Hendrix statue. It's got the Michael Anderson statue of the Museum of Flight, and the baseball player, and one other one I can't remember off the top of my head. I also did an interview with Dr. Julie Magruder, who created this calendar, the Black Lives Matter calendar, where she actually lists the individuals that are unfortunately murdered in various situations. So not only the date, but how they're murdered. And I also had some other interviews with people, like I have one with Dr. McDade. And so, but that's pretty much what I've written at this point. So if there are any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, Paul Jackson, and iBrother. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
We'll do Q&A at the end of all of our storytelling, but thank you so much for sharing your story.
Sure.